Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Perspective. Overall, we've seen the ECP say that they will be taking a decision as far as the reserve seats are concerned. We'll be talking about the legal ramifications of where we are at this time as far as this issue is concerned. Of course, we have seen the PTI-affiliated independents join Sunni Ittihad Council, and whether the party itself, under the garb of Sunni Ittihad Council, will be allotted reserve seat or not. What will happen? Will those reserve seats remain empty? Will they be allotted to other political parties? What is the legal is this a legal lacuna? How do the legal experts see this? We'll be talking about this. We'll also be talking about the overall political situation in terms of course, the CM election, the oath taking, of course, which we are looking at as far as Punjab Assembly is concerned, and of course also the National Assembly and the session, the inaugural session that is soon to be called. All of that today on Perspective. I have with me Naveed Aman, who's a political analyst. Thank you for being with us today. We also have Barrister Safi Ghauri, who's a legal expert. Thank you for joining us. Dr. Muhammad Ali Hamza, who's a senior analyst, and Irfan Ghauri Sab, who is a political analyst. Thank you for being with us today. Irfan Sab, I know you have little time. As far as the issue at this time is concerned, how are you looking at this? Because, of course, earlier on we've seen the case, the background, of course, is cleared and is in front of all of us as far as this issue of reserve seats is concerned. Of course, it's a sizable amount, and as far as all political parties are concerned, they are, of course, wanting to know what will happen. Of course, the Electoral College also and its own ramifications on that. We saw certain questions being raised yesterday by the PTI itself as a political party on those PTI affiliated independents which are now part of the Sunni Ittihad Council, raising this issue of whether it will be an incomplete house, it is, or whether this does amount to an incomplete house. All of that today, how do you see that side of things?
Mahrukh, thank you very much. I think it's, I mean, other than, in center and KPK, it's the PTI-backed candidates. That's the main issue now. And then, of course, that as per the Constitution, the session of the National Assembly, it should be summoned within 21 days of election. So that date is expiring on 29th of February, which is, we know that it's very close now. And still we see that the Election Commission, it is yet to take the decision on reserve seats to Sunni Ittihad Council members now, which were actually the PTI-backed candidates. I think by tomorrow, Election Commission should take some decision. If they don't, in that case, it's most likely that the case might end up in Supreme Court. But that would till the final decision is taken, that till then this uncertainty and this politicking, it will continue as it is. But as we have seen in Punjab, I mean, so far, except, this, which is a very, in parliamentary system, we see that the protests and these things are normal. But other than that, the election of the speaker and deputy speaker, similarly in Sindh Assembly as well, that has taken place.
Right, fair enough. Let me go to Safiullah with this. Safiullah, we saw this debate earlier on, of course, and as far as of course, you have to have a party, as I understand. You have to be from a particular political party and have given a list as far as that particular political party is concerned. In the absence of which, the Election Commission was clear that there would not be nominated seats. The situation now, as I understand it, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that there is, actually, as far as the Sunni Ittihad Council is concerned, they haven't actually given a list in the first place, which is also a requirement of the law. So how the Election Commission looks at it, in the light of the prevalent law, is in that sense clear. But how do you see it happening? Do you think that there is a possibility that those seats can remain empty? Do you think there's a possibility that they can be awarded to other political party considering their own ratio? How do you look at it, legally speaking?
Mahrukh, I think you've enunciated the entire matter very well yourself. In fact, that is exactly what the problem is. We have Article 51, Article 106, and Article 224 of the Constitution that is to be read with Section 104 of the Election Act. All of these together talk about the fate of reserve seats, what happens if there are reserve seats, what reserve seats are, why they exist. Reserve seats exist for women and minorities. And in the case of reserve seats, the lists of reserve seats need to be submitted beforehand. And even if they're not submitted beforehand, then you are legally bound by various Supreme Court judgments to submit them within 3 days of the elections. Now, clearly, those 3 days have passed. And now we know for a fact that we are in some sort of lacuna where we have a problem of people not having submitted reserve seats. Now, once again, let's look at the purpose of the reserve seats. The purpose of the reserve seats is to give deserving women and deserving minorities a chance to sit in the parliament. It is not to just simply add more seats to your political party so that you can go and exercise more power in the parliament. It is the purpose of reserve seats is not to have a bigger party and a bigger representation in the parliament. The purpose of reserve seats is to give a section of a society more representation. That section of society has not been mentioned by the SIC so far. So the matter has obviously gone to the Election Commission. I do not think that the Election Commission is empowered to decide on it, because we have PILDAT, which has already given its opinion on the matter, that maybe they can dispense with the technicality and give it to the SIC. But I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think that the Election Commission has the power to dispense with such a technicality and give the reserve seats to the SIC or distribute it amongst
the Election Commission, like you said, just decide to ignore this technicality when it is clear in the law that it is in fact there.
When we talk about the law, it is not just any law. We're talking about the Constitution of Pakistan.
Constitution of
the election is simply not power to make a decision on it. So this matter will eventually have to go to the Supreme Court, unfortunately. Now, of course, as our worthy guest has just mentioned that, but before that, we already have the huge problem of calling the National Assembly, which needs to be called. The deadline is the 29th of February, which is 21 days. And the president is refusing to do that until the matter of reserve seats is not decided. So once again, all that we can honestly hope for at this stage is that the Election Commission gives a decision tomorrow. If the decision is that the Election Commission itself does not have the jurisdiction, the matter should go to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court should dispense with it as quickly as possible. However, regardless of how it happens, I think the National Assembly now needs to sit down. Cabinet positions need to be filled, and the country needs to move on. It is my personal opinion that the country has suffered.
There to be a decision from the Election Commission one way or the other tomorrow?
I would hope so, because delaying it any further does not help their cause. Even if they are going to delay the matter further and then in the end decide that they do not have the jurisdiction, that's going to reflect even more negatively on them. If they want to decide on the matter and by stating that they are not able to decide on it and they do not carry the jurisdiction, they should pass on the matter to the Supreme Court as quickly as possible.
Legally speaking, Safi, Ullah, of course, you've said that you don't think that they're empowered to. As far as this of course, Constitution says that you have to submit a list, and like you said, if there are those technicalities are there, is it possible that those then in that ratio, the seats themselves can be awarded to other political parties in the absence of there being, one particular party which doesn't have a list and hasn't submitted a list?
Absolutely. How can that's exactly what my question would be. I would counter that with a question like, how can the Election Commission of its own accord decide to allocate those reserve seats to some other political party? Like it has been suggested that they be distributed amongst the other parliamentary parties. How can the Election Commission do that? There is absolutely nothing in the law that empowers the Election Commission to do so, which is exactly why I'm saying that what we are facing right now is a constitutional problem, unlike one that we have seen before. We have had a change of reserve seats in the Musharraf era, when the percentages of the reserve seats were changed right after the elections. But that was a different thing, and then that was a different Election Commission, and the Election Act was also a different act. Now we have Section 104 of the Election Act, which is very, very clear on the methodology and the legal mannerism on how it is to be done. So it is it is my humble opinion that the Election Commission should just wipe its hands off the matter, send it to the Supreme Court, which is the only body within Pakistan that can decide on such a constitutional matter as quickly as possible, and just get done with it.
It has to be very quick because we want the session to be called and of course things to proceed also. Let me go to Dr. Muhammad Ali Hamza before I come to you, Aman Sahab, Naveed Aman Sahab. Ji, Dr. Muhammad Ali Hamza, do you think that there's a possibility as far as the election, as far as the parliament is concerned, of course the procedure has to go on, there has to be, the session has to be called, all of that has to happen. Do you think that there's a chance that we will have, either way, whatever the Election Commission decide, one or the other party will go to court on this?
Thank you for having me, Mahrukh. First of all, yes, all the parties, they are going to use their legal rights whenever or wherever possible. But what I have understood from my respected Safi Ghauri's point is that ECP is not allowed to favor any party in any regard. So the case has to move on to the Supreme Court. That's a constitutional crisis. But okay, if it is happening today, it has to be fixed one day. So if it fixes today at this time, good enough. Now, another aspect which is very important about the reserve seat is that the purpose, as my dear fellow has mentioned, yes, we have to regard the purpose of the reserve seat. And the talk should move on from government making to the governance now. And that's a challenge. I think that's the word move on mean. Let's get into the governance structure now. Let's look into how to run the country, how to get the country out of the social, economic, and political crisis at the moment. So what I believe is that at one side, things should go to the legal platforms, to the legal houses, wherever, Supreme Court or ECP, whatever they decide. And on the other hand, the House should be called, things should move on, the cabinet should take shape, and then we look into how to bring societal cohesiveness and economic growth to the country. And that's what the citizens of Pakistan are waiting for. The legal fights, they are important, but on the other hand, what the voters or the people of Pakistan are going to have in next 100 days, next 1 year out of this coalition government, that's the question should be raised at the moment.
Right, fair enough. Let me go to Naveed Sahab. Naveed Sahab, of course, this is an important issue for all political parties. Do you think that there is, of course, there's no precedent for it, but then it's a unique issue and it's a unique situation. I will ask the legal opinion on this also, but now the issue of the House not being complete is being raised by the Sunni Ittihad Council and the independents who've joined there. So in that sense, perhaps, the options that are open to the Election Commission are limited?
Yes, as Hamza said, that the Election Commission may favor. I don't think Election Commission or Supreme Court or anybody need to favor any political party. It's not a matter of favor, it's a matter of legality and the Constitution. If the Election Commission... If the
Constitution doesn't permit...
Then you cannot favor any party. So, Election Commission will have to follow the Constitution or the legal matters and legal ground and then decide whether the Sunni Ittihad Council is liable to have seats or not. The earlier the better. If it goes in Election Commission in a day, Election Commission will have to decide if Election Commission thinks that it is beyond its power or its limitations, legal limitations, should be referred to the Supreme Court immediately so that we avoid unnecessary delays and hostage situation in the political start. Since we have just entered in a new era, we need to clarify everything very, very nicely, decently, and the process should be very smooth so that the new government set new norms and values. Honorable way should be opted, and there should not be any opposition for the sake of opposition at all, so that the work should be shown in the assemblies for the sake of the country and the nation.
Right, fair enough. Let me go to Safiullah. Safiullah, once the nomination papers are filed, as I understand, party lists can't be altered and new lists can't be submitted. This is also part of the law, right?
Partly, Mahrukh. So, Article 51 of the Constitution does allow the Election Commission to amend a party list and to amend the candidates. But of course, for that, they have to file a petition in the Election Commission. They have to explain why something of this sort needs to happen. What was the exact reason? Sometimes people die, so therefore, you have to replace someone. Sometimes somebody just falls sick, maybe gets convicted.
Isn't the procedure the fact that, if somebody, for example, is contesting on 2 seats and chooses to go, for example, if there's Punjab Assembly and National Assembly, chooses to go in the Punjab Assembly, the National Assembly seat falls vacant and the next person in the list automatically goes up. Of course, if the list is exhausted, the new names have to be submitted. So there is some clarity on the issue itself. But has, in your opinion, it ever happened that the House has remained empty? Do you think that there's a provision in law for that happening? For example, the Election Commission can hold that since the Sunni Ittihad Council has not submitted a list, or it doesn't have a list, then it will not be allotted seats and those seats will remain empty. Is there a provision for that at all in the law?
So that's a very interesting question. And once again, this brings us back to the central problem that we are facing regarding the minorities and also regarding the kind of list that we have right now. I think to the extent of the Sunni Ittihad Council not having submitted list of elected representatives and now these people having joined it, we know for a fact that this is a legal conundrum, but this is something that perhaps I think the Election Commission is empowered to overlook under Article 51. They could consider an amended list and they could say, fine, even though you did not submit a list of these candidates, we'll consider them a part of the entire polity and they can now start working under the banner of the Sunni Ittihad Council, which is going to be, of course, something that we've never seen before to this extent, but maybe it can work. Maybe, I don't know. This is something that I would still want to understand. But on the matter of reserve seats, there's no way. There's absolutely no way we can suddenly add, delete different seats simply for the reason that the reserve seats exist for a purpose. They do not exist to add voting power to a parliament. They exist to represent a minority group that needs to be represented in a well thought out manner. So, the idea here is to bring women and to bring minorities who are true leaders of their communities, not to just add any woman and any minority member just to sort of fill in the seats and get it done and over with. We don't get over. These are not technicalities that need to be fulfilled. These are laws and these are matters that exist for a very particular purpose. And if that purpose is not being fulfilled, I would firmly doubt the ECP's jurisdiction to go over it. Also, one more thing that I want to add here is that even if the Election Commission were to decide, one condition that I put forward earlier was that they should just say that they do not have the jurisdiction. But even if they were to decide one way or the other, you know as well as I do that it will get challenged. The matter will still go to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court will still probably stay the matter, and the Supreme Court will still end up be the only determining authority for this issue.
But do you think that for the session to be called in the meantime, because we've seen it happen in the Punjab Assembly, in the absence of those seats in the Punjab Assembly, of course, the session has been called, and of course, we expect there to be, as far as the House is concerned, we've seen the oath taking take place. We also expect now that for there to be, as far as the election of the CM is concerned, and of course, the oath taking and all of that, the procedure to go on tomorrow also. So, do you think that precedent can follow, of course, but we need the president to
and the reason why I hope it should happen is because we know for a fact that the PMLN, People's Party Alliance, whatever they're calling PDM2 now, has the numbers to go forward. Even if PTI were to magically win the seats, even if it were to get the reserve seats that it so desperately wants, they would still not have the numbers. With MQM, People's Party, PMLN having now joined hands, we know very clearly what the situation is. We have also heard from Bilawal today, who said that the PTI never spoke to them about forming an alliance. So given that PTI has no one, PTI or SIC now has absolutely no one that they are allied with, there's absolutely no point in stopping the process. The sole purpose, the sole achievement, and the sole benefit of stopping this process would be to derail Pakistan's economy, to create more political nuisance. I don't think it leads to anything other than creating political fiascos. So I am personally, regardless of however the elections went, whatever my opinions are on the overall political situation, I am firmly of the opinion that we should now move forward. And this was fait accompli. There's no other way we can look into this anymore.
Naveed sir, do you think that now that, as far as the situation is concerned, we see the, of course, if the session is called and things move on, and we've also seen the broad makeup of the alliance, the coalition, the modalities of it between the PPP and the PMLN, how do you think it's going to work as far as, of course, the two major parties with the PPP and the PMLN? How are they going to work at this time? Of course, MQM is also a part of it. Do you think it's going to be a change from, of course, the way that we saw the governance model work before the elections? Do you think there's going to be a change there? How do you expect it now?
All three parties, PMLN, People's Party and MQM, have joined hands to form the federal government and have decided to address the issues of the country and the nation. Yes, it is good, and they have already decided which position will go to and which of the party. The partners will have to share the positions, will have to share the
power sharing formula is there, but in terms of how this will work, let me come back to you. I'll go to Dr. Muhammad Ali Hamza. Dr. Muhammad Ali Hamza, as far as after the oath taking is concerned, after we see the business of governance, of course the biggest challenge for this new government is going to be economy. And as far as that is concerned, we see the PMLN as the major leader in terms of dealing with the major issues, the day-to-day governance also at this time, and the PPP, and whether they will eventually become part of cabinet or not. How do you see that?
Mahrukh, as I understand, considering the history of coalition governments, yes, the challenges are high. But considering the current political situation and the economic situation, the parties have to go amicably. They have to help out in each other to solve not only the economic problem, as you just mentioned, we are having huge economic problem. I do realize that, but I think a larger problem is the social incoherence that we are facing. There is a huge mistrust. And today I was just listening to Mr. Saad Rafiq, and his line is considerable if the coalition government works over it. He said that we will respond the hatred through work and work. So if they do it, it will help them to regain the prestige of their own parties. As we know that in the last couple of years, the giant parties of Pakistan, the PMLN and PPP, they lost ground a bit. So if they want to regain the trust of the people, if they want to regain the honor and respect of these political parties, they have to work very amicably, and they have to put aside their political differences, and they have to reach to some consensus that takes the country onward. And for that, what I look forward to, that okay, they should be having 100 days plan, because I remember in 2018 when PDI was there, everybody was asking for 100 days. So I am interested, and I think all Pakistanis are interested in 100 days, what's going to happen. Further, what is their short-term plan, mid-term and long-term plan? I think the parties have to sit and show it to the people, their plans now, not only the wordy or magical words, but their absolute plan, what they are going to work on. And if in 100 days they are unable to show their coalition on those aligned work, there will be a problem for all the parties.
Fair enough. Naveed sir, there is overall, in terms of, we've seen the PPP ask for constitutional positions. So my question is, of course, the onus will be on both political parties, but at this time we're looking at the PMLN primarily in the lead. And therefore, of course, their policies and how they intend to go forward, how they intend to move forward. In that sense, do you think the focus is going to be on economy to start off with? And of course, to the IMF agreement, all of those things are what have to be done as soon as possible for the new government.
Yes, of course. Economy is the major thing because the inflation situation is, on terrible level. The the utility bills are, very high. Gas, electricity, and then petroleum, are, on the neck of a common man. So unless you uplift the standard of the common man, you cannot uplift the economy of country. You will have to address the economy of common man and then create more opportunities for a common man to earn more money and solve his or her issues.
But the question is, are there, as far as the PMLN is concerned, of course there are those promises that they've made to the people, that they are, as far as providing for, the primary health care is concerned, among other promises also. But the question again is about resources. How do you think that they are equipped to create the kind of resources that are needed at this time to fulfill those promises?
Mahrukh, it is a permanent, matter for any party. If PTI had come to the government, had faced the same issue. If not, then and People's Party with the MQM are now in the government, they will have to address all the issues. As far as the resources are concerned, we have very limited resources. But one thing is very important, that you don't put more pressure on a common man. Put more pressure to the privileged class. And, you find those taxes from the privileged class and should not have put burden on a common man. One. Number two, you will have to manage your resources from, within the country. Petroleum or natural resources or IT sector or agriculture. These are the main sectors which the government will have to address to, find that revenue which Pakistan can utilize for the development of the country and the nation for the next 5 years.
We talk about the SIFC, of course, as far as the SIFC is concerned, they're going to be able to lead, or they're going to be able to, direct the government in the right direction, so to speak. And then perhaps it will be easier for the government at this time. And of course, there's broad-based agreement between the coalition partners on economy, on investment, on where and how the country needs to be steered in that direction. So things seem to be smooth there.
Things will be smooth. And since the parties are now, going for the commencement of the government, the responsibility should be taken now. Because every party promised before going to the elections, every party promised that they have, or this party has the agenda or the capability or potential to resolve all the issues of the country, whether it be PTI or PMLN or People's Party or any party. So now those all are in the assemblies. Some are in the opposition and some are in the government. Both opposition and the treasury benches have equal role, very important role. Both take the country towards the safe harbor. So those who are in the treasury benches will have to use their potential in full strength and steer the marshes, the country out of the marshes. The opposition will have to address issue to issue, should not go for opposition for the sake of opposition.
We talk about this, we talk about the fact that of course there shouldn't be opposition for the sake of opposition. Yet we are looking at, of course, the session not being called at this time because of the issue of reserved seat, because of the fact that, at this time, also other issues. Do you think, we also saw Bilawal Bhutto Zardari say that, there were no talks between the PTI-led, PTI-affiliated independents and the PPP. Them being now in the opposition and the polarization that unfortunately exists at this time, do you think there will be smooth sailing?
Number one, you have two questions. One is the session. Yes, if President doesn't call the session...
I'm saying that it is becoming an issue, right?
Yes. If doesn't call that session up till 28th, on 29th, after 21 days of, the elections,
it has to be called.
It has every. So it will be automatically. There is no issue. The issue is whether PTI or those parties in the opposition have learned any lesson from their past. it is very important for any politician or any political party to continuously learn lessons from the past, so that the party or the leader could deliver in a positive direction and steer the country in a safer way. I see that Imran Khan or PTI hasn't learned any lesson from the past.
That's
Still-
what I want to talk
still-
about. Is
still.
it still going to be the polarization?
Yes, still.
Is it still going to be the same kind of, the atmosphere in the assembly? How do you overall see that? Is it going to be, because we want to see a working relationship between the opposition and the government.
Mahrukh, it is a very good opportunity for every party to, to save itself. I mean, it is a very, very important defining moment for every party, making or breaking. The PMLN is also facing challenges as PTI is facing challenges. PTI is facing challenges in opposition and PMLN in the driving seat. So, I don't think that Imran Khan has learned any lesson from his politics in the past, because he has never been he has never been ready to have negotiations with the political parties. As a politician, you have to talk to the political parties and the politicians.
But we don't see that, even now.
He has an issue with his, it is mindset. This will not work. It will create a problem for Pakistan. And no political party is allowed to create problem for Pakistan, because Pakistan is already in trouble. And opposition, the treasury benches, the civil society, the intelligentsia, the institutions, everybody and every institution will have to work all together to take the country to the safer position. So if Imran Khan or his cabinet or his associates in KP or in Punjab Assembly or even in center try to create problems or to bring hurdles in the way of any political development, it will not be in the good of the country and the nation. So they will have to learn and they will have to emerge as a politician. If Imran Khan or his party do not emerge as a political entity or political, party, they will, get dissolved in future.
But we are looking at, Naveed sir, we saw, just a few days ago, we saw Imran Khan sahab talk about writing to the IMF about, allegations of ringing, which is really external interference and asking for external interference in what are domestic affairs of Pakistan. So the strategy overall, as far as PTI or its leadership is concerned, as far as the former head of PTI, Imran Khan sahab is concerned, like you said, has not changed. So that seems to be about, it doesn't seem to be about coexistence. It seems to be more about the kind of, the kind of animosity, the kind of relationship we saw earlier with not talking to others again. And we saw that, they have not talked to any political party.
Mahrukh, this is not your personal issue. It's a national issue or national matter. If you don't want to talk to anybody, you don't talk. Nobody will ask you or suggest you and force you to talk. Yes, it is a political matter. You are a politician. Your party is in the assemblies. Now you need to deliver as a politician or a political party. Unless you talk to any political party, you cannot.
Do you think the PTI feels that this kind of a style of politics, which may not necessarily be beneficial for Pakistan, which may not necessarily be beneficial for parliament, for democracy, is nevertheless beneficial for them as a political party? You think that it is about playing to the galleries, it is about playing to their vote bank, it is about politicking at the cost of the country, and it suits them?
Mahrukh, at the cost of the country or the state, you cannot gain anything. Ultimately, you will be the loser. Everybody will be the loser. And in everybody, the PTI or the PTI Supremo also include. So,
But do you think that they feel that they are gaining politically, or it's a short-term political gain, which is what is, exhorting them on this path of acrimony, on this path of, hostility, rather than some kind of, a middle road, or rather than coexistence of between them? And as an opposition, of course, criticism is part and parcel of any opposition, and one would expect them to be critical of policy, and which is nothing extraordinary. But the question is, we want an opposition not for the sake of opposition, but for the betterment of the country.
Definitely. I quote one incident when Latif Khosa Saab won from 127 Lahore, and Saad Rafiq, he lost that seat, and he was graceful enough that he admitted that I have lost, and he congratulated Khosa Saab. Khosa Saab, after that, should have shown his own grace, which he had not shown. When he came on the media, he said that we will not let the state run, will not let the government run. I mean, who are you to halt the state? You cannot stop the state.
But my question is, that is a style of politics which the PTI as a political party has been known for. But do you think that they feel that it appeals to their vote bank?
It will not appeal for a longer time. I mean, shortly, yes, it can, but you cannot make fool of the whole of the nation, and you cannot make fool the nation for a longer time. You will be exposed. And Imran Khan in past was exposed because of his, such statements. It really harms the political atmosphere, the democracy, the country or the state. So everybody or everything comes on stake. I think Imran Khan should take some very good advice, but he doesn't learn any. He doesn't take any advice from any person. Like if we talk about Gauhar Khan, he was advising Imran Khan not to write letter to IMF.
Yes.
Imran Khan should have said, thank you very much, Gauhar Khan, you have corrected me and I should not write that letter. Imran Khan, after that advice, decided to replace Gauhar from the chairmanship and bring another person. So if you are running the matter of the state with this mentality, you cannot deliver anything very positive for the country and the nation. It is it is a pathetic approach.
We saw that, we saw the 90s style of politics, and then, there was there was a conscious change, a step in the other direction, where, political parties decided to coexist. Of course, we saw the Charter of Democracy also, and we saw main political parties like the PPP and the PMLN coexisting in that sense. If we see this kind of polarization again in Parliament, because earlier on we've also seen scuffles, we've also seen fights erupt, we've also seen, do you think there's a chance that that kind of politics can come back, unfortunately, and that kind of Parliament will see the same kind of acrimony, the same kind of disturbance? Is it possible, in your opinion?
It is possible, but you need not enhance polarization. We need harmony. The country needs harmony. We are facing multiple challenges. If the government, like PMLN or People's Party, if they take very soft stance or soft way of negotiations, you need to welcome that stance, and it will be very good for the country and the nation. If the central government or the Punjab government do not show any sort of aggression against PTI or Imran Khan, it will be a good gesture, and you need to respond to that gesture, and you should extend your hand towards harmony. When Maryam Nawaz was announced as Prime Minister, Chief Minister candidate for Punjab, Gandapur was announced for KPK. I mean, Gandapur has his
course,
own,
yes,
his
but it shows
different
that
sort of repo. With that mindset or repo, which sort of message you want to deliver to PMLN or Punjab administration? It will not work. It will, enhance polarization, and it will be creating rift from the PTI KPK government towards the center and PTI KPK government towards Punjab.
Because of course all the provinces have to coexist and,
Definitely.
with the federation, and if this kind of acrimony persists and this style of politics, it will create issues of governance between all provinces.
In KPK, the selection of Gandapur as CM is like a selection of Buzdar in Punjab. There's no difference between selection of Gandapur and the selection of Buzdar for
But don't you think that we saw, of course, it is perhaps also a time of revisitation of policy within the PTI-led independence and the former head of PTI, Imran Khan sahab also, because there were mistakes made during, which some of them, their own party had also later acknowledged. So perhaps, that kind of revisitation, that kind of a think again is in order for those mistakes and perhaps a step back from that kind of politics.
Mahrukh, if we don't consider Imran Khan as a party leader, if we keep him away from PTI and any other party or any other leader leads the party, I think can lead in a better way. Because Gohar or any other like Ali Zafar, or there are many others who are ready to talk to the people, who are ready to talk to the parties, and who wants to argue. These
but that kind of a leader of opposition, perhaps somebody who is willing to be more accommodating and yet take a stand on issues that are important is needed.
Mahrukh, a political leader always creates that safe space. And bring that way
forward,
from the troubles out.
Unfortunately, that's all the time that we have. Thank you so much for being with us. Naveed Aman Saab, thank you for being with us. Barrister Safi Ullah Ghauri, thank you for joining us. Dr. Muhammad Ali Hamza, thank you for being with us. Irfan Ghauri Saab, thank you for joining us. Overall, of course, we will know the issue as far as reserve seats that have to be allotted or not allotted, or the fate of those reserve seats which, party independent affiliated PTI-led independents which are now part of the Sunni Ittihad Council in the next day or so, and what will happen to them and whether that will land up in court also is also, the legal opinion seems to be in that direction. Let's see what happens in that instance, and later on, of course, we are looking at the process of government making, we are looking at sessions being called, we are looking at perhaps and hoping for an opposition which will be able to engage in conducive dialogue with the government and also, talk about core issues rather than politics of abuse, politics of acrimony, politics of conflict, which we have seen unfortunately not too long ago. Thank you so much for joining us today on Perspective.